Hey everyone, Joe Waxman here, the mediocre astrologer. Meh, he's okay. Guys, I'm back and I'm super happy to see you. I hope you're happy to see me. I got my wizard hat on, so I'm still a wizard, apparently. And today I want to go over more connections between the 12th house, the second house, and even the third house. And then we'll look at even some more connections between the 8th house, 6th house, and 5th house. And this all has to do with astro psychology, essentially. And the purpose of this really is the purpose of astrology. What is astrology about? It's about self-knowledge. It's about self-understanding. It's about the purpose of life, which is growth, right? I mean, we're here to grow. We're here to evolve. We're here to learn. We're here to expand. We're here to become better. And astrology is nothing if it can't help you become better, if it can't help your life become better. It's not just a novelty. It's not just like entertainment. Some people use it that way, but real astrology has to be more than entertainment. Entertainment's a part of it. It's fine. It's fun. It's good, right? We need entertainment, but it has to serve our growth, our psychology, our understanding of ourselves and others, right? Once we understand ourselves, then we can use that to help other people in the capacity that we do understand ourselves. So elaborating on the same topic that I touched on yesterday between the 12th and the second and even the third house, let's look at that a bit more. So in the second house, we're dealing with the expression of the first house. So expression of the self, or the production of the self, what the self is producing. So we got things like the voice, right? And laughing is a part of that. We touched on that yesterday. Laughing is a direct reflection of the 12th house, right? When we're happy, then we laugh. But we can reverse engineer it and elicit laughter within ourselves to influence the 12th house, right? And that's how we're going to change it. That's how we're going to move the needle. It's a very, very powerful method to move the needle, to elicit that laughter. It's reverse engineering, right? That's a second house, 12th house connection. Some other connections are volume of voice, right? If we're feeling very weak and insecure and shy, we might just, which I touched on yesterday, or opposite, if we're really enraged, right? What do? We start yelling, ah, or growling. Like there have been times in my life where I just, not proudly, but if I've been challenged to the point where I'm just like extremely angry by somebody, with someone, I'll growl and my posture will change. I'll hunch over and I'll start to become much more animalistic. Which, by the way, the second house is it's a primal house because even animals have great mastery over the second house, right? They can growl, they can howl, they can chirp, they can sing, they can do all sorts of vocal gut utterances, right? With their mouth and their posture, right? When they want to be intimidating, all animals know this. They puff themselves up and appear bigger than life. Their hair stands up on their back. They do all kinds of weird posture things, right? That's all second house. They growl, they roar, they hiss, they chirp loudly. Third house is a bit more advanced because animals don't have the capacity to speak in language like we humans do. The closest you can get is like apes and monkeys, where they can use their hands quite well. They can learn sign language. Some birds even can. I mean, actually, birds can talk. So I mean, they're you know, um, so they're obviously have an evolution, like parrots and things like that. They can actually communicate and talk, but monkeys can do sign language. They can use their hands well, like they can use tools and stuff like that. But the third house is a bit more evolved. But let's go back to the second house. So we have volume of voice and the way we use our voice to reflect our 12th house. And that also is going to impact reverse engineer it, right? If we yell when we're angry, conversely, we can make ourselves angry by yelling. And I know this because if you've ever tried to deal with a deaf person and you have to start yelling, it's really easy to get agitated by just the fact that you have to start yelling in order to communicate with them. So it's very annoying. It's a fact of life. It can happen at times. People lose their hearing, and they don't always have hearing aids for whatever reason. You might have to speak a little louder, and it can become problematic. But yeah, so there's our tonality, low, high, growling, singing obviously is a very powerful one, which is why people use music and like music, which is also why I'm extremely sensitive to music, and I hate unsolicited music. Like I really, really, maybe because I have Pluto in the 12th house and I don't want to be controlled. I'm like hypersensitive to having my emotions manipulated, my subconscious mind manipulated. So anytime there's music that I don't choose, I'm like extremely annoyed. Like it pisses me off. Like I don't want to hear it. I didn't ask for this. This is a violation. It's a personal violation to me when I hear music. So that's why like you don't hear any music in my videos. And um, you know, I you're gonna do what you're gonna do, but I don't like it. I hate it. I can't stand it. Anytime there's an intro music to like a video I want to watch, I'll skip through past the music. If a person needs music in the background to um to be inspiring, I'm not gonna listen. I'm just like, buddy, if your words aren't enough, you need music, then you're not doing a good job. Sorry, I'm not gonna buy it. So music, but also singing. Like singing is a great way to change your subconscious mind if you sing very positively. Obviously you can use it negatively, and people can sing very dark, heavy music. And I understand there can be a therapeutic effect of, if you have a lot of darkness and then you can like sing angry music, get that out. But I don't think it's the best. I think it's like cause and cure. It's like sort of like getting drunk because you're miserable, and you temporarily feel better, but then it's kind of refueling itself because then you become miserable and you need more drink, right? So like when I was a teenager, I was into lots of dark music. I didn't know why, but it was trauma fueled, right? And it didn't help. It didn't alleviate. I thought it was. I thought it was some kind of therapy, but it was only temporary therapeutic. Eventually, I had to stop and do other things because it wasn't. It didn't heal me. It didn't help, right? I think happy music, spiritual music, uplifting music is a much better way to change your subconscious, right? Chanting. All the ancient religious traditions use chanting, whether it's Western or Eastern, different kinds of chanting. Just like humming or yodeling, right? Like yodeling. Try to be miserable and like yodel and then try to be miserable. You can't do it, right? You can't. um or singing like a really nice beautiful song, you can't be miserable. It might elicit sadness, right, which is okay, because sadness is a very healthy release. If you can, if music can bring you to tears or singing can bring you to tears, it's very heartfelt. That's a release, right? That's like, going to the bathroom. It's a release. It's good. It's healthy. It's not always pleasant, like but I mean, it actually is pleasant if you can get beyond the personal judgment and you're not worried about other people laughing and pointing fingers. Just go cry alone, right? I talked about that before. You don't want other people to ruin it. Like there's, all sorts of idiots out there who can ruin a very pure, innocent moment. So you might have to be alone. That's okay. But crying itself is extremely healthy, right? You don't have to force happiness on yourself when you're that heartfelt, when your misery is in your heart, right? That's where it comes out, right? Where it's hard and frozen, and negative, like where it's not moving, that's where you need to do things to break it up and to get it moving, right? Including all the things I'm talking about. Eating and drinking, I mean, that's a mouth thing, that's a second house thing. People use that all the time to influence their second house, or rather to cover up their 12th house, right? Their subconscious mind. Like, I'm miserable, let me go eat and drink a bunch of stuff, whether it's mind altering substances or just really fatty sensorial food, sugary food, salty foods, right? All that kind of stuff. Alternately, you can choose very healthy foods, and that is going to greatly positively influence your subconscious mind. You're not going to want to when you're like so addicted to your misery, but again, there's effort there. if you effort towards that, that's how you can change it. And that's one of, I mean, I learned that growing up. My parents, that's one of the kind of secrets of macrobiotics. It's that how food affects the consciousness. And now through astrology, I'm explaining that to you. It's very real, right? If you eat healthy, good quality food, you're going to change your mind. All the religious traditions knew this, the really deep esoteric ones, the really profound ones, right? And maybe they didn't all, but like all the like the deepest parts of it, they do. I read that many times in many different areas. And it's true, it's fact, right? It's, I mean, modern science is equating it to the gut microbiome, which controls our mood and our all sorts of things, but it goes deeper than that, right? It really does. And astrology is tapping into that side of things. So I'm explaining it to you through astrology. Second house influences 12th house. Everything you consume, whether it's through your mouth or not, like needles, drugs, smoke, nose, whatever it is, that's influencing. So choose the best quality always. If you want the healthiest mind frame, if you truly want to grow, then you need to pay attention to all of these things. If you truly want to evolve your soul, that's what it requires. It requires attention, which means being awake in all areas of your life, not being asleep in any area of life, not being subconscious, unconscious in any area of your life, but bringing conscious attention to everything. That's what being awake means, right? And that's the whole point of astrology. That's what we're here. That's why you're listening to this video. So why not do it? Right? Breath work. Breath work is a powerful religious tradition, spiritual tradition, esoteric tradition around the world. Using breath to alter your consciousness is also second house thing because it's the mouth. It's the it's similar to chanting, right? Or meditating on your breath, bringing your conscious mind to your breath, right? Close your eyes. That's connecting the 12th and the second house. There are probably more connections I can't think of now, but I talked about posture and appearances, right? How we take care of ourselves, cleanliness, all of that, right? If you're neglecting any area of your life, as it relates to the second house, like external possessions, things like that, right? Not changing your bed sheets, right? Because who's gonna, like, if you're alone and single, you're like, I don't need to wash my pillowcases or bed sheets. Well, your subconscious mind knows. It's gonna track all that, and it's gonna send a signal to that you don't matter to yourself, right? How do you love yourself in the mirror? Do your laundry, right? How do you love the person in the mirror? Do your laundry, clean your bed sheets, do the things where nobody notices, because all that stuff is going to be picked up on your 12th house. And also, not only that, subconsciously other people will pick up on it too, right? They're going to reflect how you feel about you back to you, right? If you don't love yourself, who else is going to love you? Nobody, right? The people who are the most beloved have done a certain amount of work to improve themselves, to make themselves worthy. They love themselves. Now, that's not always the case. There's some caveats to that where really negative people can create a pretense through very deceptive means, but that's another story. Now, the third house is square to the 12th house. And the importance of that is that the third house can really stimulate and challenge our subconscious mind. So let's talk about that. What's the third house? Well, the intellect, writing, speaking, communication, right? How do you really elicit like what we like if they're limiting self-beliefs, right, about money or success or how you're viewing yourself? One of the ways is to really to channel the third house, write it out, or like talk therapy, right? Your psychoanalysis, like you're talking to somebody. It doesn't have to be a therapist. It can just be anyone you respect, right? Or just talking in general to a friend or a loved one. But writing to yourself is great also, because that square is going to challenge the subconscious. It's going to bring out stuff that you weren't aware of. right? And like you can write out your goals, you can write out all the things that you're afraid of. Um, you can write out your beliefs about money. Maybe you think rich people are horrible, and that they have to do bad things in order to make money, and that money is the root of all evil. And if you have subconscious beliefs about these things, even if you're not fully cognizant of it at the moment, that's going to limit your ability to make money. You're going to be poor, right? And who wants to be poor? It's not noble. It's not great to be poor. Of course, you don't have to be rich, but you need to be able to feed yourself. You need to be able to pay the bills, take care of your loved ones, and all that, right? So, if you have these self-limiting beliefs, you're going to be stuck in poverty, and then there's the downward spiral. It's going to be really hard to pull yourself out from there. So, you need to check yourself about your relationship with all these things. I mean, money is a big one because it's very reflective of our second house, how it relates to. If you have bad ideas about money, how are you going to appear? It's a parallel because these are both second house issues. How's your self-worth if you don't have good relationship with money? It's low. You don't have good self-worth. You don't have good self-esteem if you don't have a good relationship with money. If you think money is evil, you're not going to have good self-esteem, right? The two go hand in hand. So the third house is going to challenge the 12th house. So write it out, speak it out, think it out, spend time really contemplating, right? What are my beliefs? And all a belief is a rigid thought that you held on to, right? Thoughts are not the problem, passing thoughts. I study a lot of spirituality and self-help gurus and all of it. The really enlightened people have a much clearer understanding of it, but the self-help gurus are also good because they have a more practical, it's like steps. You might need to take a lower step before you can reach the higher step. And just because somebody's speaking the ultimate truth doesn't mean you can skip all the intermediary steps. The self-help gurus are all the intermediary steps. They might not understand the highest truth, but they might have the necessary steps for you. They might have the very next step you need to take to get to a higher level, right? So it's all good, right? I listen to all the most enlightened spiritual gurus on the planet, but also Joe Dispenza, Tony Robinson, Ed Milet, all these guys who, the interviewers and all the self-empowered people, they all have something to offer. Don't write anyone off. That's a critical mistake, right? Is being like, oh, I don't need any. It's like I hear people do that, and I was like, you're going to be stuck because you're going to be missing some critical information. They all have keys. They all have pieces of the puzzle. They all have steps to the mountaintop, right? So listen to everyone. And if some people don't speak to you, you can forget about them. Maybe check them a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years later. You might not be ready to hear what they have to say, right? But then at some point you might be. So what else can you do? Drawing, painting, because you're utilizing your hand, right? And that's going to elicit a more creative aspect of the 12th house, right? Drawing, painting, playing instruments. These are going to challenge your mind as well, your subconscious mind. You're going to get it moving, get it rolling, right? If you've done the more analytical type work, the more writing, speaking, thinking, and you've taken that to the nth degree, then you might need to get a bit more creative and playful. Go play an instrument, right? Sing, make some music, make some art. Like body work also is working with your hands. Anything you can do with your hands is going to activate that third 12th house square, right? And the square again is a challenge. It's going to make it work. You're pushing, right? You're pushing against the mind. You're challenging the mind with the square, with the third house. So yeah. Another ancient tradition to stimulate the 12th house is like the mudras, right? Meditating with mudra, because you're using your hand. I haven't, but I know they exist. Because I didn't understand it. So I'm like, what's the point of that? And I finally I'm like, oh yeah. third house, 12th house square. They're activating their subconscious mind through their hands, right? So that's a positive way of using it. Then you can see like the negative way where like you can tell something's going on with the 12th house. How do you tell? You ever seen anyone do this? That's something going on with the 12th house. It's working reverse. Like there's 12th house issues, subconscious issues coming out in the third in a very tense way, biting fingernails. Yeah, I know some people who do that. Fidgeting, right? Fidgeting. Can't keep my hands still. Twiddling thumbs. That's nervous tension. That's a square aspect because it's very hard, right? And so that shows subconsciously that there's issues, right? It's automatic, like, so, okay, somebody's biting their fingernails, they're twiddling their thumbs, yeah, we call it nerves, right? But it means their subconscious is not, their 12th house is not at ease. There's there's issues going on there. There's negative conditioning, there's trauma. Clapping hands is a good positive way to stimulate, right? Subconscious mind. So you can laugh and clap hands. That's a good one. Like, when something's really funny, like the automatic it clears the negativity, right? Just like laughter, clapping hands is great for clearing negativity and stimulating your subconscious mind. You're utilizing the third house, 12th house square, and the second house when you use laughter with hand clapping, right? Or you can do like various like hand postures, like yes, like wow, right? However you want to, like, just use that. Some other examples of kind of nervous 12th house, third house connection where you can tell that somebody or yourself has 12th house issues, right? Is fast talking. When somebody's speaking too fast, right? They don't leave a breather. I'm just like, and I would do that more when I first started, like, because I couldn't leave the silent space because I would get nervous, right? So that they talk about that. If you want to be a very effective speaker, you have to learn how to use pauses effectively, like that. I don't know if that was effective, but it was a pause. But anyway, stuttering would be another one. That's that would be a third house thing because that's a communication, right? And obviously my 12th house is not completely clean because I don't speak that fluently, right? So that would be an indication that I still need to work. It's also retrogrades, but I know I can get better at it, and I do get better, and I have gotten better at it. So that shows that doing these videos is therapeutic for me. So that's one reason I do it, right? So if you can do videos, if you can do a podcast, if you can talk on live where lots of people are paying attention to you, it ups the ante, right? More eyes on you means that there's more consciousness and there's more the change, the rate of change is going to be higher. You're operating at a higher gear, higher level. So any kind of speech issues, speech impediments, stuttering, that's going to reflect the 12th house. Slurred speech, when people are drunk or high, slurred speech. I mean, I can't imitate it that well, but like Joe Biden, that's dementia, right? I don't mean to get political, but like if somebody's slurring their speech and maybe he's on medication, that might be something, or who knows what he's doing. But slurred speech that's another thing. Like, so either somebody's drunk or high, or they have some issues with their 12th house, right? Trauma, dementia, negative conditioning, they're just not speaking clearly. So those are the second and third house, 12th house indications. They works both ways. And that's one of the brilliances of astrology, is that we can make these connections that are hard to make otherwise. we have a map of the mind, and we can utilize that in order to further understand ourselves and others, right? Other people. And first, we help ourselves. We clear our own issues, our own traumas, our own negative conditionings. And along the way, we can also help other people. We don't have to wait till we're fully healed, right? We can do it step by step. We offer what we can, we give what we can. And that leads me to the correlation on the other side. Like, how do you help other people? Right? That's a big question, right? How can anyone help anyone else? Well, if we're talking about psychology, so the 12th house is our own personal psychology. The 8th house is other people's psychology, right? People call it the house of shared resources. It's not exactly shared resources, because the 7th house is more about equal sharing, right? We do business deal, we shake hands, right? Hopefully we both, I mean, if it's, if it's agreeable to both parties, then it's agreeable. Then it's equal, like, or at least those both parties perceive it to be equal. So that's an equal sharing, right? If you have a business partner, that's equality. That's equal sharing. If you're married, that's equal sharing, right? So 7th house is really the house of equal shared resources. 8th house is the house of where one person is dominant over another house. So 8th house is where it's a personal relationship. One person is having a greater share than the other. So the 8th house is the house of a boss with employee, right? Now some people are like, well, I thought like 10th house was the house of like bosses, right? Because Capricorn. Yeah, that's the house of leadership, right? The house of public leadership would be 10th house. But the house of personal, when you have a boss and an employee, that's a personal relationship, right? It's not an equal partnership. They're not business partners. One person is dominating over the other. So the Scorpio, the 8th house, is the boss house, and the employee house is the Virgo house, the 6th house. They're serving the boss, right? So the 6th house and 8th house reflect each other. Okay, so all three other houses, 6th, 7th, and 8th, are also houses of shared resources. They're just in different capacity. So that's something to consider. And so how do we serve other people? How do we help other people? Especially when it comes to astrology, right? Which it means influencing their psychology. Well, that's 8th house. So likewise, the way that the 2nd house and 12th house reflect each other, the 6th house and 8th house reflect each other. So how do you influence other people in their psychologically? By serving them, 6th house, by daily working towards that, daily grind, right? You have to develop the skills and the habits and the knowledge, the academic quality, the daily working, serving others, to help them, to help other people understand or move the needle with their psychology, to influence other people in their psychology. Like, let's take influencers, for example, like Tony Robinson. It didn't happen overnight. Tony Robinson didn't just like one day just be like, okay, I'm going to be a powerful motivational speaker and I'm going to help other people overcome their issues, their traumas, because that would be an 8th house thing. It's not his personal psychology. First, he had to work on his personal psychology, and he probably continued to work on his, and this is just one example, obviously. But he had to work at it. That's a 6th house thing. He had to develop the skills and the habits and the effort. And these are all 6th house things. So you do have to work. You have to work hard, and you have to serve. You have to come underneath people. If you really want to help somebody, you have to give to them. You have to offer something of value. You're not going to influence anyone if you don't have anything to value. If you're showing up with nothing, right? You're not offering anything. You're not serving anything. You're not going to influence anyone. You're not going to help anyone. You're not going to change anyone's psychology. In a sense, you have to work for them. They're the boss. You're the employee, right? That's how you help somebody evolve. That's how you help somebody grow. If you're coming at them superior, like, you do what I say, like, you better change, because if you don't, well, I'm gonna beat the crap out of you, because that's like an eighth house Scorpio thing, or I'm not gonna pay you, or I'm not gonna, right? Like I'm gonna do something. I'm going to. You better be afraid, because buddy, watch out what happens if you don't do it. You're not going to help anyone that way, right? You have to come underneath them. You have to help them. You have to serve them, right? You have to be the sixth house. You have to be the Virgo. You have to be, how can I help you? Like, I'm genuine. I'm authentic. Remember, sixth house has fifth house in the 12th house, meaning that sixth house is not coming from ego. It's coming from the place of service, right? So you have to lose the ego in order to directly influence somebody else's psychology. So that's very important. Work hard, develop your skills, develop your mind, develop your habits, do it on a daily basis. Repetition, right? Sixth house is about showing up every day and doing the same stuff every day, serving others. You don't influence people by showing up once and just being like, look, this is everything I've learned. Write it down, because I'm never going to say it again. I mean, some people might get it. Most people won't, right? You need to repeat yourself again and again and again. The research shows that, if you want to build a brand, which means influence other people's psychology, you have to do it a bunch of times, not just once, like again and again and again. That's sixth house. You're working for other people. If you want to help other people, you have to work for them. You have to serve them, right? Service is a spiritual practice, right? Service to others. That's one of the seva. That's in Hindu. Serving other people. That's how you influence their psychology. That's how you change their mind. That's how you move the needle with other people, right? So similarly, we can utilize the square to the eighth, which is the fifth, in order to really, in addition, right? Just like second house is more primal, it's more basic, it's more animalistic, because first we have to master the second house before we can move to the third house. Animals know that. Like animals howl, but and they all have their own sounds. Even crickets chirp, but they don't communicate, or communication is very limited, right? Like we could say, like parrots or monkeys can do sign language and stuff like that. Third house is not. Third house comes after the second house. Sixth house is primal. Sixth house is primary. We have to serve people. Then, in addition to that, on top of that, like the third house, we can utilize the fifth house. And the fifth house is entertainment. The fifth house is fun. The fifth house is games, right? The fifth house is art. The fifth house is, it could be children, utilizing children, right? Motivating people through children. That's a great motivator as well. Creativity, fun. These are all things that, in addition to the sixth house, on top of the sixth house, will further move the needle, because they're challenging. They're going to stimulate. The square is like it pushes. The fifth house pushes the eighth house. The third house pushes the 12th house because of that square. It encourages it to move, to work, right? So if you're doing all the sixth house things, you're serving people, you're working hard, you're repeating yourself, you're doing it again and again and again, you're developing all those good habits and skills, right, that are very essential to the sixth house. Even competition, right, competitiveness can fuel that. That's why people like sports, and they feel very charged up by sports. The fifth house, if you add fun and games and entertainment, creativity, arts, get people interested, get them laughing, get them smiling, things like that. You do gimmicks and fantasy stuff like that, like this hat. This hat is a second house, but it's also a fifth house thing, because it's fun and it's games and it's entertainment and it's joy, it's pleasure, right? So it's performance. So if you combine the sixth house and the fifth house, then you can really move the needle with other people. So I don't know, maybe you can think of some other aspects that I didn't touch on that relate to sixth house and fifth house, how you can influence other people. That's important. Seventh house is also very important, because that's a direct connection. It's very equal, right? And so communication with others, directly, reaching out to people, speaking to people, equal exchange. That's going to be very important too. But sixth house, don't discount the sixth house. It's extremely important. The service to others, the coming underneath others. I was listening to a motivational speaker. I can't remember who, and maybe it was Gary Vee, and he was a marketing guru, and he was saying that and he, as a leader, he has the mindset, the mentality, the perspective, the paradigm that he works for his employees, and that's how he's a more effective leader, because he's trying to serve them. And that's excellent perspective, because that, I mean, he's saying it works in real life, but I'm saying it works because I understand astrology, right? I can understand the sixth house, eighth house connection, that he's influencing them because he's working for them. He's not coming out onto the, imagine it's like, I'm the big boss. You do what I say. I don't know why it was like Borat voice, but like something like that, like if you're coming on like really superior, that's like criminal. That's like what the mafia boss would, maybe I mean, maybe they're good mafia bosses, but like like you go and you shake somebody down, like you go into the liquor store and say, hey buddy, pay me, you're gonna ruin your store, right? Smash a few bottles on the way out. That's an eighth house thing. But if you really want to motivate them, if you really want to move them, say, hey, look, I mean, I want to work for you. Help me help you. How can we make this work? Obviously, I mean, if you're still trying to shake them down, you're doing it deceptively. But if you want to motivate them, if you want to motivate people, if you want to move the people, then you have to serve them. That's basically it. And you have to do all the sixth house things, like daily habits, work ethic, right? Daily grind, repetition, and the fifth house as well. So I don't want to repeat myself too much, but a little bit of repetition. But yeah, so I gotta keep talking about this because sixth house, eighth house, but not too much at once. And so that is pretty much this talk. I don't have anything else to add right now, but I will be back with more interesting videos. Hopefully they're interesting and entertaining, and I'll try my best to serve you and to work for you guys and to help you understand the things that I have come to understand. And I mean, I have Jupiter in the seventh, if I'm just being transparent. So that's why I'm like, and it's not only Jupiter, it's Jupiter and Taurus. I mean, is there anything more excessive than Jupiter and Taurus? I like to give and give and give. That's one of the things that if you book a reading with me, you'll find out that I'm extremely generous. And if you find this valuable and you want to give back, because if you're finding this valuable, then you should want to give back. That's a law of reciprocity. Book a reading with me, right? I'm not afraid to receive. So just hit me up, email me, and you're obviously found something valuable in the things I said. So you want to give something back to me, or you want to receive more, both, right? You want to receive and give, right? So it's a win-win situation. Book a reading with me. You won't be disappointed. I genuinely do try my best to help people. And the people who I've given readings to all say that I'm extremely helpful. So give it a try. What do you got to lose? Prices will be going up soon. I'm just warning you. I have to respect myself and my value. So I'm going to raise my prices soon. So get in while you can, while they're still $100. They're going to go up to $150 soon. So anyway, catch you guys later. See you on the flip side. Mediocre astrologer signing off. Man, he's okay. Laugh it off. Take a victory laugh, guys. A victory laugh. Right? That's what laughter is for. It's when you win. You're a victor. You're a victor. You win. So win before you win. That's the secret. All right. See you soon.